But there was major news, not at the pay-per-view on Sunday, but on Monday Night Raw here 2 nights ago this week. And if you are any kind of wrestling fan, if you used to be a wrestling fan but you're not anymore, or if you're even just maybe a casual here and there, have been at some point in your life wrestling fan, then the news that broke this past Monday was big. And I will let you know exactly what I think about that, what I think about all the crazy things that came about as a result of it, many things there as well. And of course, we will recap what took place at Fastlane and discuss what it looks like we can expect here now with no more pay-per-views, at least no more official pay-per-views, unless they do some sort of live network event, which they might between now and WrestleMania. I want to say WrestleMania is approximately 40 days away. So this is the big final stretch of the championship playoffs, Super Bowl, part of the WWE season for them. And we'll be talking about it because I am a pro wrestling fan. I very much enjoy it, and it is very athletic in nature. I'm not saying they're necessarily athletes, and I'm not saying that they're not. But what they do, the job they perform, requires significant amounts of athleticism. So that's where I can get away with working it into the show, outside of the fact that I like it and it's my freaking show. And I also know that other listeners who frequent the show that have given me feedback enjoy it as well. So that's all the topics that we're going to try to squeeze in here on the big show this week. Whew, okay, all right. Now that you've heard all of our likely topics for the show, it's time to place your wagers for the opening topic. If you play the at-home Balls Deep gambling game, which accompanies the at-home Balls Deep drinking game very nicely, not condoning or condemning, just saying. But I think in classic Scotty Ball fashion, we're going to mix it up just a little bit. So you do have technically a double chance. I'm going to double your odds of being correct here. So our opening topic for the hit opening segment, say it with me everybody, 3, 2, 1, Balls on Fire. What's got me, yours truly, Scotty Ball, the most on fire, the most heated up, whether it be positive or negative, could be either or. But tonight I'm going to give you a pair of balls on fire, one fairly smaller than the other. That's what she said. But to start out Balls on Fire, I gotta stay as honest and true to myself as I possibly can. And that being said, in all honesty, the thing that has got your Hump Day hero, Scotty Ball, the most fired up at the moment is this week's exclusive interview between Scotty Ball and former Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Troy Williamson. It was such a great interview, and I'm so excited not only about having done it, but I'm excited to share it with my fellow Vikings fans. Now, since you are Balls Deep Army members, I can give you heads-up exclusives on the content on said interview, or in said interview, I should say. So, a exclusive peek into the exclusive interview of what me and Troy Williamson discussed this week that you can listen to on VikingsDigitalDiaries.com starting Thursday throughout the rest of the weekend. I asked Troy, simple things like what his average day is like now, and had him explain further into some of his interests and ventures that he is partaking at this point in his life. And of course, we talked plenty of football questions. I asked him about his experience at the Combine, since the Combine is coming up this week, and he did an amazing job at the Combine of skyrocketing up people's draft boards. So I asked him not only to share his memories from that experience, but also what advice he had for other young men who were going to be at the NFL Scouting Combine this week. I also asked him about what the moment when he was drafted 7th overall in the 2005 draft was like, and he elaborated on why he chose to not attend the ceremonies, even though he was expected to be a high draft choice. He chose to stay at home with his family, as many young players in the first round do now. And I also brought up the Randy Moss trade and the expectations from both the fans and the media that were placed on him off the bat as a result of that. And we got his take on how those expectations were or were not a factor into how things played out for him here in Minnesota. And he also kind of goes into detail on what he thinks was missing, what the missing ingredient of his success here in Minnesota. Really fascinating stuff to find that out. I also asked him about some of the motivational speaking that he does, as he is a motivational speaker now, amongst other things. And so I asked him to share just some of the few things from both his playing days and his life that he uses often when doing a speaking engagement. And knowing that he is a fantasy football champion in the last 3 consecutive years, I asked him for some expert advice for all of us on what we can do to give ourselves a better chance to win our fantasy football league championships coming up this next year. So we had a really great talk. It was a great conversation. He was a wonderful guest. And like I said, I just can't express to you how much it would mean to me were you to seek it out on the internet and listen to it, and then also tell other people, other Vikings fans that you know about it. It really would mean a lot to me, and I thank you for that. So that's my first balls on fire in my pair of balls on fire. So like I said, nice and small, an appetizer, if you will. And now we'll get to more of an actual official, news story here on the show for our second in the pair of Balls on Fire topics that we got here this week. So let's see, boy. I don't know if I'm sure you didn't pick the Vikings Digital Diaries when you were placing your wagers for the first one, but here's your second chance. Okay, our second topic for Balls on Fire is the WWE. That is right. Now, that's not to say that we're going to spend the majority of our time talking about that, or more time talking about that than other stuff. It's just what's got me the most fired up, because there was some big do that went down in the WWE since the last time we talked, which would have been, I want to say, Friday, a Rare Friday show last week. So since in just 5 short days, a lot has happened in the world of the WWE, and I'm pretty fired up about it, both positive and negative. And so that's what we're going to talk here now. So the big news that has not just me, but the entire WWE universe on fire was a shocking return to the wrestling world that occurred on Monday Night Raw following a fairly lackluster Fastlane pay-per-view. Now, it wasn't terrible. The main problem I had was the order of the match card. They threw the pre-show match, they threw the United States title match on the pre-show between defending champ Kalisto and Alberto Del Rio. Now, in my opinion, this ended up being, without question, the best, most entertaining wrestling match of the night, and it was not just in part to the performance that the wrestlers put on in the ring, but it was in large part due to Michael Cole being absent from his chair on the commentary booth, and one Mauro Ranallo taking his place, and this guy was absolutely fantastic. What a talent, what a difference good announcing makes in the entertainment value of the wrestling. It was remarkable. So thank you, Mr. Ronaldo, for being a highlight of the Fastlane pay-per-view, and whatever it takes to get him on WrestleMania for an actual match on the actual show, that needs to be done, because this guy is gold and Cole is poo, and you got to do what's best for business, to quote the WWE. But so anyway, finishing up recapping the Fastlane pay-per-view real quick. Like I said, very predictable. All the belts stay with the current champs. Basically storylines are ended there, not created for WWE, minus the number one contendership spot, which ended up being won by Roman Reigns after Brock Lesnar dominated both him and Dean for most of the triple threat main event match to determine who will face champion Triple H at WrestleMania 32. Like I said, outside of that, all champions retained their titles in title matches. The two non-title matches was a Divas tag match that saw, I know who was in it. It was Sasha Banks teaming with Becky Lynch versus Naomi and Tamina Snuka. Pretty sure that Sasha and Becky did win that match. It was a double submission in the ring at the same time. Yes, that is correct. Then the only match that was a surprise was the match involving the mashup team of Kane, Big Show, and Ryback, all acting as good guys, versus the team of the Wyatt family, Braun Strowman, Eric Rowan, and Luke Harper, Bray Wyatt acting as manager. And for some insane reason, the Wyatt family lost this match. Ryback gets the pin. Then on Monday night, following some much needed momentum and push as a good guy, Ryback in the rematch on Raw walks out on his team and plants a heel turn out of nowhere. Just really, really ridiculous stuff. But that was really the only surprise from the match, or from the pay-per-view, The other gem along with the pre-show match was definitely the AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho match. That was a really good match as well. The okay matches would have been the triple threat match and the IC championship involving Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. But moving to the big news, like I said, that's got everyone on fire, that took place on Monday Night Raw. The return of Here Comes the Money. That's right, Shane McMahon, son of Vince McMahon, the prodigal son in WWE, brother to Stephanie McMahon, former wrestler. He is back. It was booked a couple weeks ago, about a few days before, or a week before we started seeing the Vincent J. McMahon Legacy of Excellence Award storyline. That's how he was written in. Vince, his dad, was presenting a Legacy of Excellence award in Steph and Shane's grandfather's name, and the award was presented to Stephanie, and so in protest to that, out came Shane. The whole universe was shocked. They did a fantastic job for once of actually holding on to some genuine surprise and shock value. It didn't get leaked. We didn't see it coming. There was really small rumblings and rumors, but nothing that was, like I said, considered a spoiler or leaked information of any kind. So you've got this huge pop, everybody's attention, and then they announce that, he announces that he wants control and that he has dirt on Vince and that he can do it. And then Vince says, how about, we make a deal and you give me one last match. You take on someone in the ring, and then you're in charge if you win. And Shane says, sure. And Vince says it's at WrestleMania, and it's versus The Undertaker, and it's Hell in a Cell. And of course everybody goes crazy because it's this mind-blowing dream match. It's the type of match that you only see on a video game. It is a dream match. It has no business actually happening because it's horribly miscast. The Undertaker is currently a good guy who is anti-authority